Welcome to the Profits in Pajamas podcast. I'm Danielle D, or Coach Danni D, and I help women to create luxury brands by creating processes and tightening their branding. This is where we talk about how to build your business in a way that allows you to work with ease and enjoy your life. My happy space is spending as much time as humanly possible in my pajamas, and I want to help others to find their happy space while still running profitable businesses. So get comfortable and let's dig in.
Hello there. Hi. No, I am not Coach Danni D. But I have the pleasure of being side by side with her in the virtual space. And welcome to Profits in Pajamas, and not just any episode, the 100th episode. Yay! I'm Monica Pierre, and I am a speaker. I'm also the founder of the Storymaker Academy. I am a professor of practice at Xavier University, and I have the honor of being the guest host for episode 100. First of all, Coach Danni D, Danielle, congratulations on 100 episodes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Monica. I can't even explain how surreal this is. One, to be 100 episodes. Two, if you told my childhood self that I would be celebrating 100 episodes of a podcast with you as the guest host, I wouldn't even believe that you were sane at all.
Because I know how challenging it can be to interview people, whether it's for radio news, TV news, newspaper. I know that by itself. Podcasts can be also very challenging, and very few people stick with it. They start, or they have a bunch in the can. They never launch, they never release, and if they do, by episode 9, they're gone. So to be here, 100 episodes is absolutely amazing. January 12th, 2022 was the day of episode number 1. So take us back, Danielle, when you decided not only is this a good idea, it's a great idea and I'm going for it. What was yourself telling yourself about yourself in this show?
Honestly, it started as a whim. That's the thing that is so hilarious to say that it's lasted this long. It was a conversation amongst girlfriends, and we were just talking about different things we wanted to do in the new year, and somebody said, "Oh, you love pajamas, you love business, you need to bring those two things together and do something with it." And the brainstorming of names, and then I came up with the name, the logo, and literally the beginning of January I decided I was going to do it. And there's this part of me that is so impulsive that I'm going to do it. I said I was going to do it. I'm going to do it. So logo created. I had my pajamas, of course, picked out, called a good friend, set up a photo shoot, did a quick photo shoot to have the graphics that I wanted, and I just went for it, and I just recorded the first episode. I said I was going to launch it on my birthday, which I did. I was in Jamaica when I launched the podcast. So, launched it, and I just threw caution to the wind. I didn't let that other side of myself that would have second guessed take over. And I really didn't know what was going to happen with it. And I was okay if I did, I didn't know if I was going to like it. I was okay if I didn't, but I would never know till I tried it.
So you didn't have any plan, strategic plan. You didn't have any of that, but you said yes to a challenge.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. Yeah, sometimes, because me and I'm a planner, and strategic is one of my buzzwords, but I have two sides of myself. Sometimes I'm a planner and I'm very meticulous about stuff, and other times I'm impulsive, and I think the combination works well for business to take action, because sometimes if we think about it too long, we'll think ourselves out of the action. And I think what comforts me is that I know that planning side, I have the ability to follow it up. If I leap, I know there's a part of me that knows how to hurry up and make that bridge before I start to sink or fall. So, of course, I immediately put the structure behind it. So what's the email sequence for my guests to get all of the information that they need? But if I would have thought about it longer, I don't think we would be here right now.
100 episodes later.
100 episodes later.
Was there a moment or a topic or a guest where you're going like, okay, I did this on a whim, but this is I'm in for it to do the long haul of it. Was there a moment when you felt like this is my show and this is a good show?
I think there were several. I think there were several along the way. So in the beginning, I was just like, who is going to listen to this? Why are they going to listen to this? And, to be honest, I am a new person to the podcast world. So I'm like, what do people listen to? What will entertain them? And actually my very first episode, Tiffany McKinney, that was my very first episode. My first episode, my first guest episode. And we cut up. We had a good old time. We talked about the topic, but we just had such a great time. And when I realized that people sat and listened to that episode to the end, I was like, we're on to something. And, people in my balloon community coming back and saying, oh my God, I went and adjusted this thing because of something you said. Tiffany talked about not wasting time doing things that she didn't like to do. And people started pulling things off of their offerings that they don't like to do because of that conversation. So that's when I realized that it was resonating. And then, of course, there's always those times where you're like, I still don't know. And I would run into people and they would I don't know that they're listening, and they would stop me and say, oh my God, I get a weekly dose of you. I don't get to see you enough. And I get that weekly dose. And I'm like, okay, well, this is resonating. This is, affecting people, changing people, sometimes encouraging people. And so I got to keep going.
You've got to keep going. And full disclosure, I have been on the show, but I listen to the show. I'm going to go back to the previous episodes, but I've been listening for a while. And from one podcaster, one interviewer to the other, you do a really good job. I don't think you realize how, now you're being yourself, you're being authentic, that those who do it well make it seem like anybody can do it. And you just invite people into the conversation, although we cannot. I've told you before, I always want to pull over to the side of the road because I'm laughing so much, or I want to take copious notes. So you have found something that is definitely in your wheelhouse that you may not have been aware of prior to launching the show.
Absolutely. I never thought about it. Sometimes people reflect back to you things about yourself and you're like, huh? And I think for me, especially, a lot of my guests I know or have met, somewhere. And as I started having other people kind of flow in, and it's always like in such great alignment. But to be able, if you go back and listen to those like guest episodes, I promise you probably couldn't tell who I know or how long I've known the people that are on the episode. And one of my guests who I met literally just through them asking, if they could be on the show, they said it's just something about you. You make people feel welcome. And I think that's kind of how I was raised. Everything kind of at some point goes back to my grandmother, and that was who she was. She always was a welcoming person. So I always want to make people feel welcome, feel comfortable. And that goes for my guests, but it also goes for my listeners. I want them to always feel like you're sitting in this same conversation with us.
Absolutely. Over a good cup of gumbo or some food or tea. I know you're a tea drinker, not necessarily a coffee drinker. But how do you determine who is going to be on the show and how do you balance it with solo episodes and guest episodes?
So I do one guest episode a month. And I chose to do that because I didn't want to overwhelm myself with constantly seeking guests, right? But I wanted to bring other ideas, other people, other opinions to the podcast. So I do one guest episode a month, and then the remaining episodes are solo episodes. Also, the guest episodes always tend to end up being like long. It never was my intention, but when you get together with like minds and you have a conversation, it takes on a life of its own. So, um, I don't have an hour every week to to listen to that conversation, but I still want to be able to give that to people. So you have your quick in and out episodes where it's just me and whatever, God put on my heart that day to talk about. And then you have the other ones where it's bring on a guest expert, and you ask like, how do I decide? I do a pre-interview with most of my guests, even the ones that I know, so that we can kind of figure out, okay, what do we want to bring to people? What is the, topic? And I am very, very strict about alignment. I want to make sure that who I'm bringing on, we don't have to agree on all things, but I just want to make sure we have that alignment factor, that they are looking to help people work with ease. They're looking to help people find healing or find, financial stability, whatever their arena is, that they're going to be beneficial to the community, and that there's somebody that I would do business with.
Let me ask you about this whole idea of your topic, and the show is about ease. That we know this grind and hustle culture. Is that message starting to take hold? That people are seeing that there are options. We don't have to do it the way others do it, or we are told that it should be done. That in life is holistic, and in life there is balance. Where are we as far as the general reception to that message, that you, among others, are just leading the charge when it comes to that messaging?
I think that, you know, I think it depends on, who you are and where your journey is, right? I think that some people are, really in the thick of that. But I think that most of us are at the beginning. Because I feel like the culture that we are raised in just speaks to the grind. It's always, do more. It's never enough. Achieve the next thing. And it's, where is your fulfillment? Where's your happiness? You know, where is your family? Where's your friends? Where is, all those other things that are important to your life? So I think for a lot of people, it is the beginning. I was talking to someone earlier today about how I think COVID has been a catalyst for a lot of people who weren't thinking about this to start thinking about this, because they had an opportunity to see something a little different, whether it was working from home, or maybe they were just, sitting on the sidelines for a while. Like, waiting for the world to open back up, but they got to see that there is more to life than working or, constantly achieving. And now we're trying to go back to what was before. And I think you're starting to see people hesitate because they're like, wait, I don't know that I want to immediately go back there.
Right. And I don't want it to look exactly the way it was. There's
Right.
probably some answer in the middle that would
Right.
work for me as
Right.
well. Well, we're going to play some episodes because I want to find out 100 episodes, including this one. What are some that really stand out that you're excited about? And I do know it's like picking a child, right? Which one of my 99 children episodes do I love the most? Can you think of an episode that jumps to mind, or you go like, wow, this was something else?
Yes, I mean, yes. Oh my goodness. And you're right, it's like a child. Like I could just pull so many moments, but one that I want to jump to, this was the episode with Dion. Dion is the expert in LinkedIn, and she was talking to us about having your voice be heard, your work not speaking for itself, because we say that all the time. Well, my work speaks for myself, I want to be in the background. So she was on the episode talking about that. I think that was episode 26, if
No,
I'm correct.
yeah, no, 58. If I get my
Oh, 58. You're right.
58,
You're
right.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Let me trust the journalist. um
On the
Episode
paper.
58.
Yeah. Can we get a clip of that? I would love to. Are you just going to mention that one?
Yeah, no, we can get a clip of that. Let me see. One second.
And that was it. It's like, I hate the phrase that like, oh, your work is going to speak for itself. And it's like, no, it's not. You have to actually find your voice and have that confidence because, just like anything, any other area of life, like someone's going to take that and use it and abuse it. And you're going to be left completely burned out, overworked, underpaid, you know?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have a good
That's
friend
not,
whenever she's on Zoom and she has something meaningful to say, she gets her mic like this. Give your voice a microphone, because no, the work is not going to speak
whoa.
for itself. It's just speaking. It's quiet in the
Mhm.
background. You need to amplify it. So
Right.
how do we go about amplifying our voice using LinkedIn?
Wow. I love that. And we had an opportunity to meet Dion, and just brilliant when it comes to that. And sometimes we hide behind letting our work speak for itself. But as your friend says, you grab that mic and you just proclaim it. You're the one who's in charge of it as well. What was the reaction to that episode about not sitting back and letting your work attempt to speak for you?
I think that the reaction to that episode was, a lot of people reached out to me and wanted to get connected further with Dion, and figure out how to do that on LinkedIn, because that's her wheelhouse, but also just step more boldly forward in your business, no matter how you're doing that. Because yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people, they're the most talented, but they're not known because they're waiting for someone to recognize, and there's too much noise. Nobody is digging and researching to try to recognize you. You have to sound that alarm. You have to, say out loud, I'm the baddest, I'm the best at fill in the blank, so that you can continue to excel. Because there's some people saying I'm the best and the baddest, and
Yes.
they're not.
And not so much.
But they're making traction because they're making noise.
Right. And I think when I coach with you, you've given me advice, and coaching is basically you tell people to pull their receipts. When you have the data, when you have the information, it's not bragging. It's just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. It just
Right.
happens to be about
When
you.
you have the Emmy and one on the way.
Oh, yay. Yes. It was a documentary. When I am a Alec Trebek Legacy Fellow.
That
Okay.
part.
You can't
That part,
dispute that.
no, you really have to speak it. And I think, a lot of us feel like it's bragging, and it's not. It's just speaking your truth. It's just speaking who you are. And sometimes we have to get out of our own heads about what that looks like to other people, because anybody who it makes uncomfortable, that's really their issue and that's not yours.
And as you were speaking, the word story jumped into my head, because when you talk about what you do, when you're not satisfied with letting your work solely speak for you, you are telling your story, and you are the guardian and the gatekeeper of that full story.
Yes.
Do you
Yes,
agree with that?
absolutely. I totally agree with that, because people are going to create a narrative for you if you don't create a narrative for yourself. And when you start to speak and tell that story, now you're shaping what that looks like. And I've had a lot of people, especially through the podcast, because people are getting to know me in a whole different way through the podcast. I've had a lot of people say stuff like, oh, well, I always thought, fill in the blank. And when I sit back and look at it, I'm like, I never really did anything to give you that thought, right? It's your own creation. And I've even had somebody say to me, I thought this, and the more I get to know you, I realize this. And I kind of paused, and they said, well, no, you didn't make me think this. I just thought that. So don't leave it up to chance. Don't leave that up to chance. You say, this is who I am. And I know I've shared this with you before. One of the famous guys in the balloon industry, he said, I'm the king of latex because I say I am. You get to say who you are.
Right. Because I say I am.
Because I say I am.
And that is so freeing. That is so empowering. That is, stepping into the fullness and the responsibility of your story and who you are. And it takes away the complaining and the crying and the moaning that people don't get you, they don't understand you, they don't recognize you, when you haven't been doing those things for yourself.
Right. Right. You haven't been speaking the narrative. And I think sometimes it can be frustrating, because sometimes you see that people see other people and they don't see you, right? And they may identify with that person. There's different reasons, but the point of the matter is, if you see that there's an issue there, then that's the time that you need to tell your story.
Well, as you continue to celebrate the 100th episode of your wonderful podcast, there's another one I think that you would like for us to kind of go back down memory lane and revisit. And that's episode number 74, where your guest really talks about what the brain was meant to do. Set that up for us.
So we were talking about operations and operational excellence, and that's one of my love languages. I love, a big part of working with ease is creating systems that make it easier for you to operate. And I just thought it was so brilliant that what she said about our memory, because we spend a lot of time putting stuff in there, remembering to do this and remembering to do that. And I don't want to spoilers. So I'm gonna just play it, but it was that aha moment for me. Like, I'm like, wait, not only is this true, but like we don't even think about it like this. We don't even think about what our brain was really designed for.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think another thing that goes with that is just trust. It allows you to trust your business. It allows you to trust your team, and it allows your clients to be able to trust you. I heard this somewhere. I can't even remember where I heard it, but I heard that brains are for thinking, not remembering.
I love that.
So that's when it comes to write that process down. Write down how to do that. Just write it down. Get a system to do it. That way you're not having to remember it, and you're using your brain power to be creative. Like you were talking about being creative and things like that. So you're using your mental, your mental power for thinking, not remembering. So, because that's just not what our brains were meant to do anyway. So
I love that. I absolutely love that. I've never heard that before, but I love that, because we try to retain all of this stuff. And the reality is, it's in there somewhere, I guess. But I mean, I can't promise it's going to come out at the moment that I need it.
Right. And then you start saying, there's something wrong with my
Right.
my cognitive ability is waning.
Right. But it's like, it really wasn't set up for that. And if you think about it, like computers, we have computers, and nowadays they make them for different things. So they, my son loves to game, so he has a computer that has different capabilities than my capabilities, because I don't need all of that, because I'm not going to touch a game ever. But if you're sitting up there trying to catalog everything, every file you ever had on a computer that doesn't have the capacity to do that, then when you go actually try to use it for what it's for, thinking, then it's spiraling and buffering, because that's not what it was set up for. We have to, utilize the tools at hand and realize that we can't keep overloading ourselves, whether it's mentally, physically, what have you, and then expect to operate in our optimal position. It doesn't make sense.
What was the feedback from your listeners or even yourself when you heard that information, or say, well, you're right, it's not for remembering, it's for thinking. That's what it's designed for. How did it change your perspective and what you did as a result of it?
I think it just was so freeing, because I already was, definitely a systems girl, and knowing that that's what gives you time freedom, is putting systems in place so that you can alleviate that mental load. But it's a difference between thinking about it like I'm alleviating my mental load, as opposed to I'm doing something that is not supposed to be done. And so that was just a huge mindset shift for me. Like, because sometimes we may change something, but we still have that mindset block around it. We still feel guilty about it, or we feel, like you said, defective. Like, okay, why can't I remember all of this stuff? But to realize I'm not supposed to remember all of this stuff is just so freeing to me as a concept.
Do you go into each episode looking or listening for some ahas or ways that can really reinforce what you are talking about? For example, systems. Now you can share what your guest shared about what our brains were designed to do. And it wasn't just memorization or remembering, but now you can use your automation to help you with that. So do you find those gems there, or do you go into your shows looking for them?
I find them.
Mm.
I find them. We do the pre-interview, and we kind of just, kind of talk about where those similarities are. What are the things that, what are our beliefs about certain things? And so we get that out there. Sometimes I really regret not recording the pre-interview, because there's some gems in there. Like, there's some backroom gems that, y'all never get. But I keep it open purposely, because my personal belief is that God will guide the conversation to where the listener needs it to go. And I've had so much, confirmation of that, of people coming back to me and saying, oh my God, I really needed to hear this, or something that I would have never caught as a soundbite. Like, it wasn't even the thing that got me, that someone else will come back and say, that phrase, really stuck with me. Or I think me and the guest shock each other sometimes too. Like, we wait, whoa, give me a minute to process that. Like, that was golden. But I really do let it be a fluid thing, because I think that is where the magic comes in. I've had guests after we finish recording say, I never thought that I would tell that story. I never thought that I would say that thing. I opened up in ways that I probably wouldn't have. And I even tell my guests, even though we do a pre-interview, I don't want you to come rehearsed.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
don't want the rehearsed version of yourself, because that's not the version that people are going to connect to.
And I know we have one more clip to play, but while we're talking about that, particularly from what we do as interviewers, what we do as the ones who facilitate a conversation, is to create that space. The ones who make it seem like they just rolled out of bed, hit play, hit record, and started going, they have learned to get out of the way and allow the conversation to be led, to be emphasized. I mean, to me, that's based upon my experience too, as doing this business for a long time, is that it is not about you to show just how smart you are, or just how well read you are, or just how brilliant you are and wise, but to be able to let that guest shine so brightly that they surprise themselves oftentimes.
No, I totally agree. I feel like when it is kind of rehearsed, if like everybody's waiting for their line, like it feels like everybody's waiting for that line or that thing to say. And I mean, there's a time and a place for that. I mean, news and all these other things, there's a place for that, but that's just not the vibe here. Like, the vibe here is that I want the, lay back with my girlfriend version of you to show up, because that's the version that makes somebody else feel like they're a part of that conversation. They could go to a conference if they want the bullet points and the PowerPoint. That's a different time frame. But yeah, I think it's just giving that space for openness, for freeness, for vulnerability too. Just it don't have to be perfect.
No, and it ends up being just right.
Yes.
Just right. What someone needs to hear, what you need to say. It helps you to really dial in as the host, to make sure that you're not only taking care of the audience, but providing a safe space for the guest as well, and letting you come through as well. So there's a lot that goes into hosting, but it always comes from a genuine place if you allow it to.
Yes.
I know we have one more clip, and I definitely want to get to this one, episode 26.
Yes.
And in episode 26, I think that was Sheila. And she was talking about profitability over popularity. Talk about that, and why does that, one of the ones that in your top 3 stands out?
That one stood out for me. So one, I love Sheila. We met years ago, and we reconnected, to do the podcast, and I met her in passing, but once we got together and started talking, I'm just like, oh my God, like, because she is a operations mastermind. She's all about systems. She came from a military background, and that was just her thing. But she's also just the most fun and down to earth. So it's just a great synergy. But for her, just sharing with the audience how important it is to mind those dollars. You can't just, everybody else might be charging $20 and losing money. You can't just follow the crowd. So yeah, I thought that was an absolute great episode as well. Okay, so what is the best advice that you could give someone that's seeking the profits in pajamas lifestyle?
Oh, there's so many. I would probably say be profitable instead of being popular. Start with the end in mind, and make sure you have education, execution, and patience.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
And so where does the popularity part fit in, and that can trick us and trip us up? What are we trying to be popular about?
I think we are not taking time to figure out our own identities. And so we are getting so caught up in either industry standards or what we see on Instagram or what we think somebody else's situation is. And we're trying to copy that without really thinking about what does that mean for me. Like there's nothing wrong with looking up to someone. It is nothing wrong with gleaming some, gems from that person. But hopefully that person is living out their own success story. They're living out their individual story. But you have to do the same. And so sometimes we will just go with, what is popular. A lot of times, like I'm not a trend person. I've never been a trend person. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be, but do it because that's, authentic to you, not because everybody's going to do such and such, but that thing may not be right for you or your business. So you may be, jumping over here to do X, Y, and Z because that's what everybody else in the industry is doing right now. But if that's not what's right for you or your business, you need to be able to say, you know what? I can't go with y'all. Y'all have fun. I see y'all when y'all get back, but I can't go with you because that's not going to work for me. And it's okay. It's okay for someone else to do something, and you may see someone else do something and be wildly successful at it, but it may be a flop for you because it wasn't meant for you and it's not connected to your vision. But the biggest thing that I see is that most people don't know what their vision is. They haven't taken that time to figure out, outside of being a part of a particular industry or doing a particular thing, what is my individual vision? Because no matter what the industry is, I've got a balloon business, have a coaching business. There are so many ways you can go, but every way is not yours.
Oh, we got to write that one down. Every way is not yours. Oh, that is so powerful. And as you were speaking, I started thinking about your book or your journal, the Success Journal, because one of the things you talk about is that, oh, there it is. Oh my God. Oh, I can't find it real quick. I think it's in the other room.
That's okay. I have it.
You had yours right there. But defining what that looks like for you and having the courage to say, this is what success looks like and is for me. What other advice do you give, especially when it comes to being comfortable and clear about your vision?
I think one, just sit in it and figure out what feels good and what feels right. And once you set those parameters, like you have your, like your business can have values or pillars, your life can too. So once you decide these are the things that are important to me, when you start to make decisions, you got to use that as your rubrics. How does it match up to the things that I say that are important to me? So sometimes something might seem like a great opportunity, but when you match it against those values, all of a sudden it's not looking so good. So, as far as money, you may say, I want to make $1 million, right? And that's a great aspiration, but you may also want to be more present in your life. And you may also want to, bring more balance into your life. So when somebody comes to you with that opportunity that has that big price tag attached to it, but it requires you to discard those other things, that opportunity doesn't look as shiny anymore because it's not meeting all of those things. You need something that's going to meet all of those things and help you to get all of those reach all of those goals. So sometimes something that, somebody next to me is like, oh my God, that is such a huge opportunity. And I'm like, it sounds like a whole lot, and
yeah,
that's not something that I'm interested in. or it may not be aligned with my overall vision. So it may be financially great. It might, fit into my schedule. But when I look at where I want to go, what is the end goal? It doesn't line up. And so if it doesn't line up, it has to be eliminated. I think that's how we get into overwhelm and burnout and all of these things, and being dissatisfied in life is because we're giving too much attention to things that are not getting us to that final vision. Like when you sit down and say, I am a success, and this is a homework assignment I'm gonna give y'all. Sit down and sit with yourself. I am a success when. And I want you to visualize that successful version of yourself. And I want you to journal about her. Who is she? What does she look like? How is she showing up? And once you can see her, you can be clear about who is not her and what is not for her. And you start to make decisions easier because you're like, nope, that it don't fit. It doesn't fit.
It doesn't fit. And then I think what leads the next thing is you're starting to learn to trust the vision, trust your instinct, and trust that there'll be something even better that's coming that's more in alignment with what you want. But it's kind of hard to see at the beginning, especially if you've been ripping and running and you have a lack mentality, or you're worried that this will be the only offer ever, 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 ever coming your way. How important is it to learn to trust the instinct that it leads to the alignment?
Absolutely. I think that there is, so clarity precedes confidence. And I think that when you have clarity about who you are and where you're going, it opens up that door of confidence. And, confidence a big girl. So the door got to open wide for her to get out. But you got to start somewhere, right? So it's you start to open that door and you start to carry yourself in a different way when you are clear about where you're going. Because when people offer you things when you're not clear, one, you take things that you don't deserve, and two, you most likely are taking them for less than your worth. When you have that clarity and you know where you're going, even though you may not be able to see the full path, because you never can, you have to step out on faith, so you never can fully see that path, but you know that it's there. It's kind of like walking in the dark. You know that it's there. You know that there's a little bit of light that's helping you go forward, but you know that the path exists. And so you walk a little different. You carry yourself a little different. And the further you get down that path, your shoulders get a little straighter. You get a little more confident, bolder in how you present yourself. And it's really, it becomes freeing. Because prior to that, a lot of times we're so worried about what this person thinks or what that person thinks, or, what if I do this wrong, or what if I do that wrong? But if you really tap into where you're trying to go and stay focused on that and stay in alignment with that, you start to have another level of confidence. And then people start to feel it. And people start to respond to that confidence. And, sometimes you don't even realize it until you've taken a step further. So you've gone a little bit farther. You couldn't have told me years ago that I'll be sitting here just telling y'all all of my business and all of my insides of my soul. I would have been like, I don't think so.
Not me.
I don't think so. But you don't have a problem if you know you're walking in your purpose. Vulnerability starts to not be an issue, because I mean, you could think something about it, but so what? I mean, I'm walking in my purpose. You have no authority. The greatest authority gave me this purpose. So there's nothing that you can, do or say that can shake that. So yeah, I think it's just we have to find that clarity. What is it that is for me? And I feel like we often are trying to fit in, but it's really for us to stand out. It's really for us to lean on the thing, that most likely the thing that you try to hide is your superpower.
Yes. Yes.
Is your superpower.
Wow. More gems. That's why when I would listen, I'd have to get to the side of the road or I'll make a mental note when I get home to start taking notes. It becomes a joyous and joyful assignment. Absolutely. What are you most proud about with this podcast?
I think what I'm most proud about is when I start to see and hear people just talk about taking care of themselves, talk about uncovering what brings them joy, talk about like when I see it around me, when I see it start to become just like normalized conversation, like that to me is like absolutely huge. That you know it's seeping in. I don't know how, when, why, but it's seeping in, and seeing people really it resonate. I saw a Facebook memory, and it was one of my former coworkers. She was sharing the podcast, and this was like early on in the podcast, and she was sharing the podcast, and she was saying how it helped her shift her thoughts about working and balance, and all these things, and just to know that something that literally started as a whim is impacting and affecting people. So that is that's the fuel that keeps me going, because I truly believe that whatever message is supposed to come out on a particular episode, there's somebody out there that needs to hear that.
And that is so much love and confidence and living in grace to do that and be that conduit and be that vehicle for others. I know we played some clips, but can you, off the top of your head, remember some of the comments, either text or messaging on social media? Do any come to mind?
I think I mean, it's so many just moments of people realizing that things can be different. And, I can't pinpoint like particular, comment, but just, there are people that I don't even like know very well that have shared the podcast, and they're like, you have to be here and listen to this because this just changed my whole view. And like, to bring that to people, to bring, especially to women. As women, we carry so much, and it's almost as if it's expected. And to realize that we are people too, and we deserve to have joy. It just floors me every time. In my balloon community, oh my God, when a episode hits and there's a particular moment of stepping on toes, then somebody's going to share it in a group and say, Danielle's in there stepping on toes again today, and I'm like, sorry, not sorry, but we all got to get our toes stepped on every once in a while to make ourselves move and do something different. But I am like always so full when somebody reaches out to me and somebody says, I was listening and it made me laugh, it made me cry, it made me whatever. But like that some positive something came from doing this, and putting energy into this. And yeah, it's just it's funny. my girlfriend group, did you do this episode about me?
Yeah.
I did not. I absolutely did not. But but I love that it resonates, whether I was thinking about you at the time or not, that it resonates. And a lot of times I did the episode for me. Like it was what
But you
it was
needed
what
at the time.
I was thinking about. It was what was on my mind. But I know that, if it affected me, then there's someone out there in the world like me that was also affected. And so that's why I just, I push past sometimes, I'm like, Lord, do you really want me? You just gonna make me put all my business out in the street? And I push past it, because if that one moment lets somebody else know that they're not alone, then I gotta be vulnerable. I gotta be open. But I want to say for people, because it comes up a lot, people are very scared about being vulnerable. I've never had any negativity come from being vulnerable. And I know that, that's not always the case. I know that sometimes it may be, you might want to switch up some of the people you're around. You might want to switch up the circle. But I'm saying that to say that there's so much power and freedom in vulnerability, and that we need to embrace it more, because no one can help you with the problem they don't know you having.
Yes. Yes. Piece of advice for that person who has been waiting for the right moment to launch a podcast. For that person who has something to say, but are worried about how it might be received or perceived. What advice do you have? Because I see podcasting as one of the ultimate ways and tools in which to tell your own story, to not just let your work speak for itself, to free up your brain for what it was intended to do. What's your advice to them? Because again, you've proven that you can go out on a whim, and 100 episodes later, you're still standing, still podcasting.
I think my advice, and this is my advice for most things, get out of your head. Get out of your head and go and do the first step, whatever it may be. Go and do the first step. Get out of your head, and really, I'm going to say this, be honest with yourself.
Yes.
Be honest with yourself, because it's not that it's hard. It's not that you gotta, you could sit there and you could research the tech and the this and the that and the everything else. You could do all of that. And I'm not saying not to do it. And it depends, a lot on what type of show you want. My show is casual. So I mean, did I, put some research into the mic? Yeah, I did. But I didn't allow it to stop me from what I needed to do. So and this is actually an episode, so you go find it.
Uh-oh, another assignment.
Is your purpose greater than your fear?
Yes, I heard that. Yes, wonderful episode.
Is your purpose greater than your fear? So you have an assignment to do, be, and you can hide behind a bunch of things, or you can make it happen. Like, I literally was working on this idea in January, and it was the first episode aired January 12th. Like, you can make it happen if you want to make it happen. Sit in, why are you afraid? Sit in, why are you afraid? And there's nothing wrong with being afraid. We all face fear, but at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, Are you going to be able to say, I did all that I wanted to do, that I needed to do, that I was charged to do? Because, there's so many people that have left us with dreams that have never been materialized. So and I'm speaking to the audience as I'm speaking to myself. You have to continue, look, to everybody with ears. You have to be able to continue moving forward in your purpose and not letting yourself get stalled. Understand that, all those anxieties that you're worried about, nobody else is thinking about. It's just you. Nobody is, thinking about all of these other things. And, I tell this to all of my guests before they come on the show. The person who's looking for the message will receive the message. The person who's looking for the mistake will find the mistake. That person that was looking for how many times you said, or if you blinked your eyes, or if, there was a shadow, or, that person was never coming for the message anyway. So stop letting that person run your life, because you basically letting that person run in your head rent free. Think about the person who is on their last leg and they're waiting for you. They're waiting for, you to make them laugh, you to make them cry, you to make them whatever. They're waiting for that moment, and you sitting somewhere worrying about whether or not you got the right ring light. I mean,
oh, no ring light.
Right. So, I know not everybody that's a listener is a faith believer, but you know what? I don't want to have to, when I meet my maker, I don't want him to be like, well, Danielle, you were charged with this. And I'd be like, well,
Jerry was saying that I had shadows.
Right. Somebody said I had shadows, and then I was editing the video for 45 years and all of this other stuff. Like, find the courage to do the first step, and then find the courage to keep going. And that's literally what I did. I committed to do it. And I was like, my podcast coming out on the 12th. And I was like, oh, now I got to make a podcast because it's coming out on the
10 days to make a podcast.
Because it's coming out on the 12th. Because sometimes I do that to myself. We also have to find our cheat codes. We all have ways that make us, that help us or whatever. So if that's it, if it's that you got to throw it out there and then make yourself, live up to it. If it's an accountability partner, whatever it is for you, find what's going to help you to take that first courageous step. And then just keep finding the courage. You're going to, like, even after you could have all the courage in the world, the next time you still going to feel that little twinge, but you just keep going. You just tell yourself, you keep reminding yourself of the purpose. This is why I'm doing this. And what I find is when I sit back a little too long, God's going to send me somebody to remind me. And then I'm going to be crying, all ugly crying. And I'm like, oh, now I got to get up and go get back to work because this person then said that this thing changed their life. And I'm like, I got to.
Oh, my goodness. Did you have to send me somebody? I think I told you the time I'm in the Walmart. Yes. And this amazing, handsome guy. I see him and then he goes, "You're Monica Pierre." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You're famous if you want to believe it." And I'm going, okay, God, you didn't have to do me so bad. So right next to the salmon and the fish.
Right. I was just minding my own business.
I just said hi. That's all I did. Okay. And his voice was so angelic and so peaceful and spoke right to my soul. And that's you'll get those moments. Beautiful. What do you have coming up? Because I would be remiss if I didn't ask Coach Danni D about merchandise or a program or something that just is in line with this podcast that can help others as well. What you have going on?
Okay, so what I have going on. So behind the scenes, I've been working. We for a while had our graphic tees, and me and systems. The system wasn't working like I needed it to. So revamped all of that. Have some new graphic tees, some cups, some PJs. So we have the new merchandise is out, and you can go to graphic tees by Coach Danni D.com, and you can look at all the things that we have there, so you can walk around and let people know that you're a part of the Profits in Pajamas community.
Yeah.
There are a few different tees. We have our signature booked and busy, paid and well rested t-shirt as well. So go there, see what they have, and get some merch. I want to see some merch in the street. When I go in the street, I want to be like, look at that.
Like, I know what you're wearing.
Right.
I know what you're wearing. And don't forget the Success Journal, because that's still available.
Oh, yes, the Success Journal as well. I'm going to put the link to this in the show notes. So the Success Journal is out. Monica referred to it earlier, and we talked about your personal success story. And this is really a really, really great way of cataloging that and staying attached to that, staying engaged in your success story. So I had been recommending journaling for years to my clients, and Monica is one of my beautiful clients, and she said, you need to make one. And I was just like, okay. So another time that my impulsive self was like my impulsive self signs checks, and I got to make it happen. So I'm so grateful for that, because I really love giving people a way to really think about that and really stay engaged in success, because in life, a lot happens and it's easy to get discouraged, but we want to really focus in on our success, because we are here to do great, great things.
Absolutely. A great, great thing is 100 episodes of a
Yes.
podcast. I am so proud of you. You are doing it. And I have been just honored to be the guest host of the Profit in Pajamas podcast. And I'm going to see you in another 100 episodes. If I could just be so bold as to say, call me, I'm available.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, this is honestly a surreal moment. I've shared this before. You have always been one of those pillars, and to have met you and connected with you, and it's one thing to know somebody's public persona, but to really know somebody, and it's just surreal to be sitting here. And this is definitely a moment. I could not think of a better person to host this. And for real, I'm just kind of geeking out myself. Like Monica Pierre is literally hosting my 100th episode. And that is something that I could not have imagined. And we are just sitting here right now. And so, yeah.
Beautiful. Well, as guest host, I'm going to sign off and say, keep going, Danielle. And for those of you out there who are hesitating, make sure that you do what you need to do with that vision and that purpose. And Coach Danni D will be back next week for another exciting episode of Profits in Pajamas.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you for listening to the Profits in Pajamas podcast. I hope you got some great tips to start working with ease. Want to stay connected? Follow me at Your Workflow on Instagram. For more information about building your luxury brand, register for my upcoming luxury brand workshop at CoachDanniD.com.